Nobody stormed the Bastille. There were about 6 prisoners in there. They opened the cells. They came out rubbing their eyes. Probably one of them was the Marquis de Sade. I don't know. There was no storming of any Bastille. It was all propaganda. Now, before the so-called French Revolution, usury was illegal. After the terror, because that revolution became the terror, and it was bankers' terrorism. You see, that's the first terrorism. After the terror, usury was legal. Unlike the American Revolution, the French Revolution was funded by the bankers and benefited only the bankers. And it was also the first use of terrorism as a weapon to depopulate all the dissidents. So, these are a few samples. So basically, to sum it up, this is what's happening today. The private chartered banks and the global cartel lend 400 times what they actually have. They charge interest to governments for merely printing numbers on paper, when the governments have the right to issue their own money at no interest. Instead, the Federal Reserve and its spawn, the IMF, the Bank of International Settlements, and the World Bank all lend their money from thin air to nations and take real resources as interest on this unbacked paper. And this legalized robbery results in the deaths of millions. So any government which doesn't issue its own money but borrows at interest from private bankers, it's not worthy to govern. As soon as enough citizens understand how they're being robbed, they will demand that they receive credit, not the socialized debt that they suffer now. I mean, and nobody's saying do away with all the banks. That'll be the first thing they'll say back. No, I'm talking about new money. When new money comes out, and it has to increase in proportion to the population, new money has not performed a service. It should not have interest on it as new money. But however, when it comes out to the public, if you want to buy a Maserati and you can't afford one and you want to get a loan, sure, go to a private bank. Pay the interest, get your car. But private banks should never, never be allowed to lend what they don't have. That is creating money. That is illegal because the money they're creating has interest on it and it's debt. It's not real money. It's debt. So we don't need gold. We simply need to do what early governments have done, what Lincoln did, what the Bank of Canada did for 41 years here. That's how we paid our war debt. That's how we got our wonderful health care system that you people don't have. We got all that because that was our infrastructure, and we had all that done on interest-free loans from our own bank, which we owned, the Bank of Canada. That's how we got that wonderful health care, and I don't like the word scheme because what they're doing is a scheme. What we're doing is a plan. And that's how we got our health care system. We had our own bank and we paid interest, no interest on new money whatsoever. And those loans came out to us interest-free, sometimes 1%. But even when it was 1%, that interest came back to us. We owned the bank. We still own the Bank of Canada, and we're pushing to get it back right now. We are pushing hard. And there's one political party that talks about it all the time, and that was funded and founded by Paul Hellyer years ago. He used to be defense minister here in Canada. I'm sure you've heard of him. And that party is called the Canadian Action Party. And they do wonderful articles, and they have a website. But we're pushing now to make them obey that charter of our bank. But see, Americans don't even have that. But they have a parallel. You have your Constitution. And any American who reads that Constitution understands that, the 16th Amendment, the tax, when they brought in the Federal Reserve, they had to bring in the amendment that required the taxes. Because private bankers love to lend to governments because they know when they lend to governments, they're going to get all that tax money. They're going to get all that tax money every year to pay their compounding interest. And even if they paid off the whole debt tomorrow, which is impossible, they would need 10 Americas to pay off what they owe to these 8 families. It's not even about the money they get now. It's about their control of this whole planet. So they would need 8 or 10 more Americas and all the resources in it to pay these criminals now. So all you can do about it is to say, we're going back to the Constitution. We're putting out United States notes. They will be backed by every resource in this country. And that's what you have to do. But to prove, just one more argument to prove how asinine this financial scheme is. The day before the Depression in 29, the U.S., they had a wonderful, they had a railway system. They had mines, lakes, towns, factories. Things were booming. They had the post office. Everything was going. Nothing was wrong. The day before the Depression hit, okay? Now, the day after and the months after, when stockbrokers were leaping from windows and people were queuing up to get a loaf of bread, wait a minute, what? Those same resources were still there. The mines, the lakes, the towns, the factories, even though no one was in them, they were all still there. Nothing happened to them. No big mothership came down from another planet and scooped up everything that America owned and went off with it to some other dimension. No. All the resources were there. So, what was missing? The medium of exchange. The monopoly that the private Fed had on the medium of exchange. They were issuing the money. They were issuing it as loans, and all these loans had interest owing. So what did they do so that they could take over all the resources in America? They simply called in the loans that were ready to come in. They didn't renew any more loans. They cut down the checkbook. It's called checkbook money, but they cut down the money supply over 1/3 in a very short period of time. Now, if you own a store or a company, or even if you have a mortgage on your house, and you have money in the stock market, if you can't renew your loan on your business, or you can't renew your mortgage, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to pull out those stocks you've got in there in the hope of saving your house or your business. So it wasn't the crash that caused the Depression. No, that was an effect. What caused the Depression was the bankers deciding, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're now, since we own the whole money supply, now we're going to cut it right down. Nothing got done. People were in breadlines, and they were surrounded by such wealth and resources. Do you see how criminal, how foolish, how phony, how horrible the scheme is that runs this planet? How horrible. They got to superimpose that over real economics. And the people are so busy surviving, and they're so busy distracted by television and all the garbage that they're seeing continually, that they don't have time to even think logically. And they are so distracted from knowing who's really killing everyone. And these same people are causing conflicts everywhere to keep people busy fighting each other and killing each other, using religion to do it, using color, whatever they want to use, so that they can depopulate and still control the globe and still live high off the hog. Logic is a stranger to most people today.
You're saying laughing all the way to the bank.
And they have contempt for everyone because they have pulled the wool over their eyes. They have nothing but contempt for the people of this earth.
G. Edward Griffin.
They're actually stopping us from evolving with their financial scheme. People don't have time, never mind where they're going. They don't even have time to remember where they came from. Nothing. Everyone is a debt slave. Everyone has their shoulder to the wheel. Everyone is surrounded by resources that now are in the hands of a very small group. because of this scheme they invented.